Started off with, well, you guessed it, Led Zeppelin from 1969. That was live at the Royal Shore Theatre. White Summer and Black Mountainside, Jimmy Page, and a bit of help from John Bonham there. Followed that with Paul DeBow, Down on Deja Vu from his album My Shout, and Jackie Leven, Live or Die from Night Lillies. I've been pronouncing it wrongly this time, but from now on I shall be saying Jackie's name the proper way, and it's nice to have you back in the studio, Jackie.
Lovely to be here.
You've just come from Bert Newton's studio, and you're just going to head back there afterwards.
I am indeed. I'm going to be live with Bert in a minute. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, bit of a regular on his show when you come into town now.
Well, many years ago, Bert and I had a gay relationship, so of course he's always happy to see me again. No, only kidding. He's a nice fella, and I like his show.
So you're going to be back on his show live this morning, so I reckon I'll turn on the TV with the sound down and see how you go.
That's how I always watch TV, with the sound down.
With some music playing in the background. How's the other Bert, by the way? Bert Yanch. Have you bumped into him recently?
Yeah, I saw him a while back. In fact, I saw him when I was recording this new album of mine, and he seems absolutely fine, just smiling on through life and making great music.
Yeah, is he doing any more recording at the moment?
I think he has a new album out in the UK. I can't remember what it's called, but I think they recorded it in a church hall on a Scottish island called Arran, and it sounded absolutely great, the bits I've heard. I mean, really good.
Wow, That's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Now, you're back in Australia after only being here a very short time ago. What's the appeal?
Well, I got asked to do Womadelaide and also the Womads in Johannesburg and Auckland, so it seemed a bit crazy to come all this way and not do other things. But I enjoyed my last trip, and people seem to enjoy me, so I think it's just that I'd like to make Australia part of my eternal itinerary. It's a lovely place, and it's also driving stair rods of sleet in Scotland, where I'm from, so it's lovely to be here in the sun, quite frankly.
Have you discovered any more pubs around about Australia to sit and reflect, to add to your list?
I quite like the pub at the Hotel Tolano, at the Hotel Tolano, where I'm staying in St Kilda. It's small, but it's got a real good feel to it. And I have been in a few lovely pubs since I've been here, the names of which escape me right now. There's one in Adelaide I think it's called The Planet, which I liked. Big, noisy kind of yuppie bar, but I liked it.
I reckon you'll like the Dan O'Connell when you play there on Friday.
Yeah, I've an Irish guy at the Blue Mountain Festival said to me, "It's a dump, but you'll really like it. It's your kind of dump." So I'm looking forward to it a lot.
Now, Womadelaide, you've just come from there, and also the Port Fairy Folk Festival. Highlights for you? Any bands or any artists that you saw that really impressed you?
The most impressive people I've seen in a long time are Dan Penn and Spooner Oldham. I saw them in Sydney first, and it was my only night off for a whole month, and I really didn't want to go out, but they are so great. Dan Penn wrote all those songs like Cry Like a Baby and Sweet Inspiration, and he's now genuinely my favourite singer in the world. And they were also at Port Fairy, and they're just simply great musicians.
Well, to me, more or less, they were unknown quantities as far as performers go. Dan Penn in particular.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to go and see them in Sydney. I just thought, well, sure, they wrote those songs, but do I really need to see some guy croaking through them? But I love singers like Randy Newman, but Dan Penn's just gone to the top of my list as just a great singer.
I suppose you could put Jimmy Webb into that same category.
Yeah, you certainly could, but once again, I mean, he just Dan does it for me. In fact, Dan Penn's just going over to play with Jimmy Webb in Auckland, where I've just played myself in the town hall. So that'd be a great show.
But two of them together. Yeah. Night Lillies. Now, you recorded this one even before you came out here to Australia last time. Is it hard to talk about since it's so far back?
Is what hard to talk about?
The actual album, because you've probably moved on since then, recording-wise.
No, I remember it quite distinctly. You always do, because recording albums is always stressful, no matter how organised you are. But it's an album I made with ruthless military precision, and didn't allow the musicians to talk rubbish in the studio, but made them record all the time, so that if they wanted to talk crap about other things they'd done, they had to go down the pub and do that. And it's worked really, really well. I think it's a lovely album.
You talk in the little essay that comes with the booklet. You talk about the Night Lillies, and they seem a little bit ambiguous to me. I'm just wondering if we could clear it up. I'm just struggling to determine whether they're a symbol of lost innocence, missed opportunity, a corrupting force, or alternatively a source of peace and comfort. It's hard to say. Yeah,
they're probably all those things for me. What I'm saying in the essay is that a few years ago I smelled the smell of night lilies one night on a Greek island, and I was thinking, God, where do I know that smell from? And suddenly I was right back, as if I'd moved it literally in time, to a railway line I used to walk along going home in the evenings in Scotland on summer evenings, and the smell of some night lilies which were by that track, and how no matter how much turmoil I was in at that time, I was arrested in that moment and had a big moment of kind of peace. And so for me the album is a bunch of songs which in some way document the huge cycle of about 30 years between that first memory of Night Lillies and the original one. And I think that kind of cycle of memory is true for everyone sooner or later.
Do you want to give us an example now of what you're saying?
Yeah, what you mean, play a song?
Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah. I'll play a song called Sick Harbour Lament from Night Lillies. My record company said, can't we just call it Harbour Lament? And I said, no, we can't. On the way to the harbour bar, she told me, she said, this is as far as love goes. Yes, she told me, Daddy's little girl just needs another pair of magic eyes looking through her hair. Then she turned her face to watch the evening star. Evening star. Way back in perfume times, I won her. Suddenly her blood was mine. Yes, I won her before I could understand that her soul was sick in a tragic land. Then she turned her face to watch the evening star. In silence, I drank the water from another man's well, and the poison burned as the chalice fell. Then I turned my face to watch the morning star. Morning star, morning star.
That was Jackie Leven with live in the studio here on Brain Massage with a track from a song from his latest album Night Lillies. That was Sick Harbour Lament. And we were talking about another track with a few weeks ago when I played it, Elvis Green. Now, There was a bit of debate over that, over exactly what an Elvis was and why did it have to be green. And we finally figured it out. It's an old car that was around the 30s, 40s and 50s or so.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, and in fact, what happened, why the song's called Elvis Green is I was standing in my local pub in Little Venice in London one day, many, many years ago, and a woman drove up in this beautiful old car that turned out to be an Elvis. It was a green Elvis. And she jumped out. She was quite an old, striking, blonde American woman in a big, long leather coat. And she went in the bar. Everyone came out of the bar to look at this car, except me, because I'm not interested in cars. So I was talking to her inside, and she said she'd just driven from London to Moscow and back in this car. Now she wanted to sell it. So she said, I've decided that you're going to sell this car for me. So I said, well, we've only just met. So she said, that doesn't matter. If you find someone that wants to buy it, give me a call. But I get depressed, so call 3 times, hang up, ring back, and then I'll know it's you. So then she left, and then Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd wanted to buy the car. So I called on his behalf, and there was no reply at all, so I just left it for the evening. But later on that evening, some typical London policeman came round to my door and asked if I knew this woman, Eva. So I explained I hardly knew her at all. So they said, oh, well, we're just eliminating you from our inquiries, sir. So I said, and what are those inquiries? So they said, well, she died in a fire in her home this evening, and your call was the last call to come through to her number. So that's the basis of the song.
Wow. That's truth.
You should play it at some point so people think, what the hell are they... Don't think, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah, I'll definitely be playing that again. Well, truth is stranger than fiction. That old
sometimes can be.
That old cliche holds true.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, and the music right throughout that album, Night Lillies, it's all about despair, desperation, death, loneliness, love flickering out. But the music itself is quite the opposite. It's very upbeat. Was that a conscious thing, that contrariness?
Yes, I think it was really, and I do think it's possibly deliberately contrary. I've kind of given a slight pop sensibility to the music, although the music's really quite dark, I suppose. But I kind of like that. I like it in music. My favourite singer, for instance, is the jazz trumpeter Chet Baker. And when I listen to Chet Baker singing jazzy songs, at a certain level, it's just nice, easy listening. But actually the songs are so heavy, and he's giving them such a light vocal touch that you get that same kind of dichotomy. And I really admire that kind of thing. So I think it's an attempt to be light and dark at the same time.
And there are a lot of different parts to the songs, to each song. You're saying before that's also an attempt on your part to be a little bit more, did you say orchestral in your writing? Cinematic.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, just so that the songs move sometimes on this album there's a very, very sudden and total change of mood, and I'm trying to cinematically reflect what's just been said in the lyrics of the song. It sounds complicated, but it's actually quite easy to listen to.
Yeah, I think the best example of that is Carnival Dark.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Where suddenly you come out of a bit of a roller coaster song into a very kind of sad place, which I based actually on a song called The Hall of Mirrors in the Palace of Versailles by John Cale and Terry Riley. There you go.
I have to go
From an album called Church of Anthrax.
I have to go and look that one up. I caught an ABC interview with you last night on the radio, just by chance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I did. You're talking about this sort of pain that's going through the songs, and you're saying it's important to acknowledge it. You shouldn't just kind of shrug it off. Is it akin to melancholia as opposed to depression?
Yeah, I think I was talking about I was talking about this. There's a Greek word for this idea. The Greek word is pothos, and it means a yearning which can never be satisfied. And often we feel that yearning, which isn't entirely an unpleasant experience, but I think it worries people because they think, what is this feeling I'm feeling? And I think if you identify it as a yearning that can never be satisfied, instead of allowing people to tell you you're depressed or a miserable sod, then suddenly you have a real asset, which is at the same time a kind of a down feeling in your life. And if we can turn our down feelings into good things as we experience them and perceive them, then surely that can only be to our mental health.
At least you're feeling something.
Absolutely, yeah. And you don't want to not feel it, which is the point.
Yeah. All right. Well, you do have to rush off to see Bert.
Do I? Good.
I've had the news.
I shall miss you.
I miss you too. Can you fit in one more song for us?
I can.
But I better mention that you're playing at the Continental on Thursday night.
Yep.
And Dan O'Connell's on Friday night.
Yep.
So I'll be at the Dan.
Yep. There'll be two very different shows, and I'll be superb at both and telling some really disgraceful stories.
We'll see you on Bert Newton.
Okay.
In about 45 minutes time or so.
I think so. Yeah. Where did you take me when it was nearly dark? Wearing a wreath of perfume and a beautiful spark, and my tears were flowing in early morning light. But I held you in my arms all through the night. And when your heart is dead, you get the desolation light. Yeah, when your heart is dead, you get the desolation light. Now I'll walk alone in the very far north. Have you ever seen the winter up here in Cape Wrath? When the Pentland Firth is playing deadly games, you can't even tell what is land or sea or sky. I destroyed my life in a heart is dead, you get the desolation blues. And when your heart is dead, you get the desolation blues. Destroyed my life in a blizzard of lies. And when your heart is dead, you get the desolation.